Hello and welcome to Film Lovers. I'm Sonia Chung. I'll be talking to people who work in the film industry and who are also avid film lovers. Today I'll be talking to my very special friend and work experience boy. He's been on a few times, Tom Jolliffe. Hey Tom, how are you?
Hi, Sonia. Thank you for having me back. I thought I'd been fired, so I'm quite happy to be
Yeah,
back.
you had your review meeting, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. You're always dragging me into the office and tearing strips off me.
Okay, so I should quickly point out that we've been both quite poorly. I've been sick for about 2 weeks, and I'm just getting over a very bad cold, so I might sound a bit stuffy and sniffy. And you're getting over man flu cough, aren't you?
Yeah. So that was quite challenging. Yeah.
But I should point out we're not COVID positive. We're completely free, so it's all good. All right, so Tom, why don't you take it away and tell everyone what our theme will be for today, since we're having a theme show again?
Yeah. So our theme is someone who's often overlooked, so he deserves his own theme, I think. It's Mr. Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
done. Yeah. Oh, I've got a few facts about him. One,
Yep.
his real name is actually Steve Buscemi because apparently on his father's side they're from Sicily, so it's actually pronounced Buscemi. But because he's
Yeah.
so well known for being Buscemi, he just lets everyone get away with it, and it's what he's famous for. And he's
Yeah.
been in an interview where he was talking about it, and he was telling the host that, and the host was like, "Well, do you correct people?" He goes, "No, not really. I don't. Both are quite right, actually, in their own way." He said,
Yeah.
when the host basically asked him, like, when you make a reservation at a restaurant, what do you call yourself? And he said, well, I see what they react like. So if I say Buscemi and they don't recognize me, then I say Buscemi.
Yeah.
So yeah, the real way you say it is Buscemi, but he's so well known for being Buscemi that everyone just calls him Buscemi. He doesn't
Yeah.
mind either way. He just comes across as a really decent guy, though, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He's always quite down to earth, and he's got quite self-effacing humour as well.
Yeah. And another
Yeah,
fact, do you know that he used to be a fireman?
yeah, yeah. Because he helped out during 9/11, didn't he? After the
Yeah.
World Trade Towers came down, yeah. So he
Yeah.
volunteered.
Do you know, like, he worked a ridiculous amount of hours, didn't he, for free? And he didn't want any
Yeah,
publicity, whatever. Um, which just goes to show how much of a humanitarian and a really down to earth guy he is. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
So, and he often does work to, sort of to still kind of help out. Like, there was a point when there were quite a lot of the firehouses were shutting down due to the not the council, like the mayor and the
yeah,
establishment in New York.
yeah.
So he still does a lot of good work for them, and and he still talks to them a lot as well, which is really good, I think.
I think so. Yeah, he seems like one of those down to earth kind of guys.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well, let's take it away then. So, do you want to go? Well, we'll do like we normally do, where you can give your film and we talk about it quickly, and then because we tend to rub it on, so we have to try and
yeah.
keep it quick because we both need to leave by 1:45. So you can go first, and I'll go second, and we'll bounce back and forth and talk a little bit about it, and I'll keep an eye on time. So why don't
Yeah,
you take
okay.
it away with your first favorite Steve Buscemi film? Of
Okay, so
Buscemi?
I'm gonna be a bit naughty here. I'm gonna bunch a few in together.
Okay.
So this is his films with the Coen brothers,
All right.
because we had our Coen episode, so I think let's just bunch these together slightly.
Yeah, yeah. We'll breeze through them
So
because there's no point in talking about them again. We'll just quickly.
yeah, so obviously he's Donnie in The Big Lebowski,
Hmm.
who's always getting told to shut the f up.
Poor Donny.
Poor Donnie. Uh, he also appears very briefly in Barton Fink and Miller's Crossing,
Oh, is
both of
he?
which, yeah.
I didn't
So both
realise.
of which, yeah, I love those kind of films. He's very brief in one. He plays a kind of like a low-level bookie in Miller's Crossing, and then
Okay.
in Barton Fink he plays a bellboy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the biggest one he did with the Coens obviously was Fargo,
Yeah.
which obviously that's a really great film. But I think that was a really good chance for him to shine.
Well, that's it, isn't
In
it? Like, I think, like you said, if he was, because in The Big Lebowski, he's quite a small part, isn't he? I mean, he's a
yeah
significant part, but he's kind of the complete opposite because he's been told to shut up basically, and he barely talks. He's a
yeah
really nice guy, whereas in um Fargo he talks a lot, and he's like, because we spoke about it, didn't we? I think he's kind of like, he's not a bad guy to begin with.
yeah
Is he? He's actually quite moral, and he realizes that actually this is all getting out of proportion, especially when he's
yeah.
put
It kind
together
of
with it
blows up.
in his
I
face.
know, like William H Macy, everything goes wrong for him spectacularly,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
but it also happens to Buscemi's character as well.
yeah.
He expects it to be a simple job, and it just escalates. And then he doesn't have the nicest ending, does he? In that
No,
film.
well, he kind of he ends up being, he's not a nice person towards the end, because he's basically been pushed towards the limit where he's got the crazy guy he's working with, who's basically been
Yeah,
executing people left,
yeah.
right, and center. So,
And he obviously underestimates this guy as well, because obviously the other guy
yeah,
doesn't say
much.
anything at all, basically. So
But it's the complete
yeah, he sort
opposite
of
to the Big
yeah,
Lebowski, isn't it?
exactly, yeah. Well, I think this character in Lebowski was a bit of a joke by the
Yeah.
Coens, just referencing the fact that in Fargo he talks non-stop, and then in the Big Lebowski, every time he opens his mouth, he gets told to,
Shut up.
yeah,
But he's such a sweet guy in the Big Lebowski, isn't he?
yeah.
He's a
And
really nice
again, he dies in, I think he dies in
virtually every film.
every every Coen film he's been in, bar one, I think. I don't think he died. If I remember, I don't think he dies in Barton Fink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I haven't
makes a
seen
change.
Barton Fink actually. I'll get round to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said that after the Coen episode.
Oh, did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
I'll let you off. It's difficult to find. It doesn't often pop up, so
all right.
I'll let you off. It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, I will. It's one of the many things to do list. So, yeah, you were talking about the Coen brothers, because we briefly spoke about that. Was anything else you want to say about
Uh,
that?
no,
Coen
I
brothers
mean,
guys?
the Coen brothers always do great films, and I think it also shows, like a lot of Buscemi's, very small roles or cameos, that he really stands out. So he always has a good scene, and he always makes the most of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a really good character actor as well, isn't he?
he is. Yeah,
Like, I was like him and a few other character actors like Kevin Bacon and Steve Buscemi, for instance. They actually, when you watch a lot of their films, you realize a lot of those films are really good films. So they've obviously, taken to the time to really pick out their projects, and
yeah.
go with it, which kind of shows how good they are, really, I think.
I think it does. Yeah, and all these great directors keep wanting to come back to them.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
and
he's really
obviously, yeah, and Buscemi, as they say in Fargo, kind of funny looking,
yeah.
kind of funny.
Poor
So
Buscemi.
I know, but he's not always going to be that guy that plays the lead role. So I think
No.
he's quite happy to be the kind of like third or fourth billing and do something, quite stand out. But I think it suited him really well
Yeah,
in
but
terms
then at
of
the same time,
interesting
you don't have
characters.
to be a big. But then they show that character actors like him show that you don't have to play a big part to stand out, like you said.
Yeah,
That they their part is just as much as what do you call it, um memorable as the other ones, as the main leads. Do you know what I mean? The protagonists,
yeah,
etc. So,
exactly. Yeah.
so anything else you want to say about any of the films with the Coen brothers?
No, that's it. I think so. Do you want to give one of your suggestions?
Yeah, I watched recently yesterday. Every now and then I need to catch up on it again. Conair.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
I
love
love
Conair.
Conair. I mean, actually, you watch it. When you watch it, it's full of really cheesy lines and really corny lines, but it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, there's no subtlety in it at all, is there? So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Um, he was probably one of my favorite. He was my favorite Con, I think. I just think it's hilarious. Like, I think it's a way to give away the ending, isn't it? Because it's such an old film and
Yeah,
probably once watch it. Why didn't
yeah,
you give away the ending? Because basically, he's a notorious serial killer, isn't he? He's like the most dangerous
yeah.
one on the
So he
planet.
gets introduced and he's bound up like Hannibal Lecter. You know, he's in this like restraint chair. He's got the mask on, and he's like the biggest, maniacal serial killer. But when you see him, he looks quite sort of unassuming and unthreatening
Yeah,
once everything's taken off. Uh, so yeah, pretty
Garland
much
Green,
every other con ends up dying, but he sort of escapes this plane wreckage and just ends up in Vegas gambling.
gambling.
Yeah,
And I just love that he's like, there's that scene where he wanders off and he comes across that little girl, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, it's so
Oh,
tense. You're like thinking, oh my god, he's gonna kill her. He's gonna do something really awful to this poor girl, and she ends up basically curing him of his, like, his, like, I guess, illness in a way. And he's completely redeemed himself. So he just goes back on a plane with a doll.
yeah. But
And
I
she
think
makes him up.
yeah, Buscemi,
Buscemi, Buscemi.
Buscemi. He potato.
Yeah,
He's one of the few actors that could kind of pull that kind of character off. I think where
yeah.
he's playing a notorious serial killer, but you kind of like him.
But that's it. He's
He's
really
very
likable
quirky.
as well. And there's a scene where he's talking to Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is like, I don't want to talk to you, like, basically, because he's a complete lunatic.
Yeah,
Buscemi. Um, and he goes, you're crazy, basically, Nicolas Cage says so. And he goes, define crazy. And he says, like, a quote, and it kind of makes you think. He goes,
yeah,
define crazy. He goes, you work your whole life, and then they tell you to piss off, and then you basically end up in a retirement center trying to make it to the toilet, but basically,
yeah,
and then because Nicolas Cage is like, you killed, like, all these people and did all these awful things, and then actually you think from his perspective, from Buscemi's case, actually what he's saying makes sense.
yeah. He's got
So
this weird logic in it, hasn't he?
yeah, in a really strange way. So he's kind of, mm, can I say he's a bit of a righteous baddie, or is that not a good way of saying it? Like, he's a likable bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think because the film is so unrealistic anyway,
yeah, exactly. You kind
it's
of let
always
it go.
very yeah,
Yeah, and for some reason in that film, um, the one that's the really hated villain. I mean, it should be Buscemi, but because he's the most notorious one of them all. But the one that's the most hated is the what's it called? Cyrus the Virus.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cyrus the yeah, John Malkovich.
yeah. Who's another really
Yeah.
good character actor. Which is
It's
really
just like the whole selection of cons is a really great group of like
it is.
character actors.
And your favorite one, Danny Trejo.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
just biased because he's in my latest films.
Yeah, he seems like such a good guy, though. We have to do another one of his. All right, so yeah,
Oh yeah,
Conair is one of my favorite Buscemi films because he just comes across as a really, like you said, you kind of let it go that towards the end, actually, you think, oh, he's just walking around free and gambling in Las Vegas, but you just
yeah,
kind of assume, like, actually, he's cured. Do you know what I mean? Which is kind of like what movies are like. They're not realistic in that sense, but it's
yeah,
a film like that, for instance. I mean, obviously some films are, but then in that way, it's just complete fantasism. It's just complete escapism. So,
yeah,
so yeah, no, he's really good as Garland Green. I like him, and like you said, he comes across and plays that role really well. So that's one of my favorite Buscemi
excellent. Yeah,
films. I don't know how to say Buscemi. So yeah,
Steve. We'll
yeah,
go with Steve. We'll stick with
yeah, yeah,
Steve.
yeah. Let's go, Steve. Did you want to say anything quickly about Conair before we go on? His performance?
No, we can go on if you want.
Yeah, let's crack on because otherwise,
Yeah.
it won't make sense.
Do you want me to do
Yours,
one?
yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna really seamlessly link to my next one. So I'm gonna take Steve and I'm gonna take Danny Trejo for my next selection
Okay.
in Desperado. They both appear together in this one.
Oh, is Danny Trejo in Desperado?
Yeah, he's the guy with who flings the knives.
Do you know
So
what?
he's
It's been so long since I've seen that film. I think I must have been about 19 or 20 when I saw that.
yeah.
And I was looking quickly on the internet, and then a picture, because I looked up Steve Buscemi films, like his IMDb, to see what films he was in. And there was a photo of him and Antonio Banderas, Desperado. And I went, oh yeah, of course he was in that film. I mean, he doesn't live long. It's another one he dies in very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth watching again, catching up on, because it's a really, again, a bit like Conair. It's not realistic at all. It's very kind of fantastical.
Mm.
It's just really enjoyable action film.
Yeah.
So yeah, Danny plays like this notorious assassin who just uses throwing knives, and obviously you got Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek,
Yeah.
and it's just they got a lot of chemistry in this film,
Well,
and it really plays off the fact that they're both really kind of ridiculously attractive.
well, I was going to say, I was too busy drooling on Antonio Banderas at the
Yeah.
time, and you were probably on Salma.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And yeah,
And Buscemi,
and
do you think he gets any recognition? I mean, he's such a good guy and a good actor. And
well,
a
I
good
think the good thing is he opens the film, so he comes into this bar and he starts telling the story of a guitar playing hitman, which is Banderas,
yeah,
and he's really building up the story to sort of strike fear into them.
yeah,
And he sort of warns them that he's heading this way, and he's
yeah.
looking for information on whatever. So Buscemi's recounting this story, and it's got this wild action scene as he does it, because basically he's working with Banderas. He's one of Antonio Banderas's only friends in the film.
Yeah, it's like a sidekick,
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah, a little sidekick until he gets kicked off.
Killed again.
Yeah. No, but the film, it's got a great soundtrack as well.
Mm.
Really nicely put together. And again, Buscemi stands out again.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good role for him.
Mm. Is there anything else you want to say about him in that role? I mean, to be honest, it's been a really long time, so I can't remember much other than that he's very briefly in it.
Yeah. So I think the whole point is that his character at the beginning has this almost like a monologue, and then it's intercutting with the story as he's telling it. So he's really amplifying this what's happened before, where Banderas has gone into a bar and killed basically everyone.
Yeah.
This whole bar full of gangsters. So Buscemi's building it up, and that's where he gets to perform it really.
Yeah.
Yeah, really great character acting again.
He's do you know what's funny about him is that, like, because we were talking earlier about him in Fargo, when everyone's always saying he's funny looking, but I actually found him really cute when he was younger. He's really attractive in a strange way, but like he's got like a cult following, isn't he? Because he's so popular with everyone.
Yeah, he's one of those, because he's not often the leading role, but he just pops up in so many,
Good
legendary films.
Yeah.
A few more that we'll probably mention later. But, and he always seems to stand out. People always seem to remember him.
Yeah.
And again, being sort of, I don't know, quote unquote, funny looking almost helps in that way as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's a little bit similar for Danny Trejo when he appears in so many different kind of films of this kind as well.
Yeah.
That, he sort of looks so distinct as well.
Yeah.
People just remember them.
Well, he kind of gets put as the bad guy, but actually Danny Trejo is a really lovely guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's sort of,
Real
redeemed himself a lot
Yeah,
from
he had
his
a hard
earlier
upbringing.
troubles.
Yeah, because he was a real con, wasn't he? He did actually get put in prison for a long time.
Yeah.
and then he goes around talking, and now he goes around talking to people about, young kids about, the choices he made, and there's other ways around it, and he got into a life of crime and stuff, but that's because it kind of makes sense because that's all he knew. I mean, that was all he was surrounded by, really. So
it's almost like environmental, isn't it? So
yeah,
you almost have to join in to survive.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. So is there anything else you want to say about Desperado, Steve Buscemi, and that?
No. Would you like to do one of your next choices?
Yes. So I want to mention it's not a really well known film, and you haven't seen it, but you should. Living in an Oblivion. So basically, that was, I'm going to quickly Google it. He's basically like a recent film school graduate, and he's directing his debut feature film. From what I remember, it's something like that. So he's directing his first feature film. And it's really clever because it's done in a kind of black and white. And there's scenes of it in black and white, and then there's scenes of it in color. So the color scenes are basically representing what they're actually filming, and the black and white scenes are actually what's really going on behind the scenes. And it's basically very clever because it's talking about how the film industry works, and actually and every filmmaker, and you know this, and I've spoken to a few filmmakers in the other episodes, so I might bring it up with them at some point. It's really stressful making a film, especially if you're the director, because you've got to think about multiple things at the same time. There's always things going wrong. You're basically problem solving as you go along, and then you're running out of time. And then there's always, going to be difficult actors who are, causing mayhem and being a bit of a diva sometimes. Things like that. And it's just a really clever portrayal of what it's like to actually be on a film set and to be in charge of a crew. It's really clever. And there's one scene where he has this epic rant because he's like, do I have to do everything myself? And and he shouts like a crazy person. But yeah, it is a really good film, but it's not a well-known film. It was kind of like it's more like a sort of indie type film that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, I think he's the leading role, isn't he? So
yeah, that's probably one of the only films where he is like one of the leads. I'm just gonna look up and see who the director was. So it came out in 1995, and yeah, you're right. That's probably one of the only films. I mean, don't quote me on it. There might be some other ones. So it's ranked as a kind of a comedy / indie film, and it was directed. Well, it was written by someone called Tom Jolliffe. I'm not sure who. I think he might have directed it as well. Hang on, I'm just going to check. But yeah, no, you should definitely watch it, especially as a film. Yeah, same guy directed it who wrote it. So Tom Jolliffe. So you do kind of think, I wonder if he kind of wrote it on sort of not based, but on his kind of just that his experiences of being a first time film director and how stressful it is to make your film, and make sure everything's put into check, basically. So he is really good in that film. You should definitely watch it, especially.
I think so. I've always loved those kind of films. Films about film. I've always found quite fascinating.
There don't seem to be many of them, do there? I don't know if you can think of.
There's not too many. I mean, Barton Fink was one of those.
It's
about a screenwriter, so there's a little bit of that in there. And
what's
the
player, one with Tim?
That's the player. So he's like a producer. Yeah. And he gets repeatedly sort of sent this screenplay that he rejects, and then eventually the writer starts kind of blackmailing him and trying to ruin his life.
What's his name?
Tim Robbins.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Actually, now I've got to watch that film because, like you said, I like those films where it's actually about the film industry. It's very clever how they, and some are very good in portraying the pressure that they get put under, because obviously as the director you're not the boss really, are you? The ultimate boss is the studio um
Yeah,
up above you, so
yeah. It's
they're
just
putting
this
the
weird,
pressure on them.
complex system. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very not political, but it's there's like a hierarchy. So but yeah, you definitely feel the stress of that film, of him of his first debut film, him trying to make sure everything works and that he stays calm throughout it all. And then you begin to realize that a lot of the people who are working for him are basically new timers, or they're people who don't really want to be there, or just like absolute lazy people, some of them.
yeah.
But yeah, that Living in Oblivion is one of my favorite Steve films. Super shitty for film, but you should definitely watch it. For
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's not a really well-known film. I think it got an award for the Sundance Film Festival, um, for I think for best screenwriting awards and things like that. But it isn't like, I mean, it's known, but it's not like a fame. It's not like a high budget film, which kind of makes it more um I don't know, realistic in a way. Do you know what I mean? It more credible, and it
Yeah,
stands out
I
more
think
in
so.
that
Yeah.
way because it's low budget. So
And it just becomes a bit more interesting when you've got a leading role played by a character actor rather than a
yeah,
superstar.
yeah. And
I
actually, my
think.
mum and her partner, they saw it a while ago when I first saw it, and they really liked it as well. They found it very interesting to watch. So it is definitely a good watch. So that's Living in Oblivion. I don't know. You can't really say much, can you? Because you haven't seen it. So,
No, I think no. I'll definitely check it out though.
okay. All right. So
Yeah.
let's go on to one of yours, unless you want to say anything else about that or ask a question.
No, it's okay. So I'll do another one, and I'll stick with kind of slightly lesser known.
Okay.
And I'm also going to bring Danny back as well,
Okay.
because this is a film called Animal Factory.
Oh, I haven't seen that
So
one.
yeah, Buscemi stars in this, and he
Okay.
also directs it as well.
Ah,
Yeah, so it's a prison drama,
right.
and the lead is Edward Furlong.
Is it a big film or like a big budget film, or is
It's
it like another?
no, it was a low budget indie film.
Okay.
Um, pardon me.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, so it's a low budget indie film. Buscemi directs it, and Edward Furlong is the lead. So he's
Okay.
this young kind of kid who's been arrested for drug trafficking,
Hmm.
and he's kind of he's got a rich father, but he thinks he's going to get off, but he doesn't. He ends up having to serve time.
Okay.
So he's basically going to be targeted once he gets into prison because there's all these like cons everywhere.
Yeah.
But he gets befriended by like kind of like the head con of the prison, played by Willem Dafoe.
Uh-huh.
So there's a kind of interesting dynamic between those two. It's got Danny Trejo in it as a con. Mickey Rourke's in there as
Uh-huh.
a transvestite.
Oh
So he's
wow,
kind of
that's
playing it up.
interesting for him.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting role for him, and he's
Yeah.
sort of very much playing up to it. But it's a really good kind of indie film. It's quite hard hitting at times. But Buscemi, obviously he's worked with so many great directors, and it really kind of rubbed off on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he directs the film really well.
I was
So
going
it's
to say, because I haven't seen it, but what did you think about that film? Is that his directorial debut then?
um,
You think?
I'm not too sure. I think it might be. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
but what did you think of
he's done
him
a
as a
couple. Yeah.
director?
Well, I think you know, he keeps it quite simple. And he lets his actors do
The
a
work.
lot of work and just gives
Hmm.
them a platform to shine.
Yeah.
So it was a low budget project, and he's got a lot of big stars in there. So you got Willem Dafoe, Mickey Rourke, Danny Trejo. So they've probably come in, doing favors for him.
Yeah.
Doing basic rate for it. So he benefits from that, from his reputation. I think
Which helps a
being
lot,
able
I
to,
think, doesn't it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah,
Sometimes they do it sort of to help boost the film. Yeah, like you said, because really
yeah,
the names are the people who bring in the audiences. Really, it's
Yeah,
well
and
done.
this was sort of the time that Edward Furlong was kind of he was at the sort of height of his fame. So he'd done American History X,
Okay.
this kind of quirky comedy called Pecker, where he plays a photographer, and he
So was
sort
he
of did
like an
this.
older teen then, or was he kind of in his 20s?
I think by then he was just about 20-ish, around about
Yeah, yeah,
20,
yeah,
22.
yeah, yeah.
So it was just before his career kind of really fell off the rails, and he obviously got into a
Drugs
few
and
other problems as well. Yeah.
yeah,
So it just reminded you as well that he used to be a really promising actor.
yeah. Um.
Yeah.
So what was the name of that film that you were talking about?
The Animal Factory.
Animal Factory. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that for sure.
Yeah, it's one. I think it's one worth watching, and Buscemi appears in it as well, so he's in front of camera as well.
Okay, is he a big
Yeah,
role or was he quite a brief sort of cameo?
it's a smallish role, so
Okay.
he recurs every now and again, but yeah, I think his presence is really felt throughout because obviously he's behind the camera as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, getting some good performances.
Um, I started but didn't finish it because I was still feeling a bit crappy yesterday. The Death of Stalin, which is
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, he's in that as well, isn't he?
yeah, but I've only literally seen probably like the first few minutes, so I'll get round to watching the rest of it later on today. Um, but yeah, like I don't know what to say because I haven't seen the whole film. But I don't know. Do you want to say anything about that film? I mean, that's kind of like a dark comedy, isn't he? So I don't know if he's
Yeah,
quite
kind
a
of.
big role.
Yeah, dark satirical comedy, and it's a little bit of an ensemble. So there's a lot of character actors who come in, do their part, and then kind of
Right.
wander off.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quite farcical. So I think it's Armando Iannucci. So he was one of the writers that created Alan Partridge and Brass Eye and a lot of things like that. So he always does things that are very satirical.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
There's quite a few
yeah, it was all.
English actors in there as well, I
Yeah,
noticed.
yeah. I think it's mostly British cast in that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's worth a watch. It's probably not my favorite of that kind of film, but
No.
yeah, it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
And again, Buscemi, he was one that I always kind of stuck out to me in the film.
Yeah. But that's why he's very good, isn't he? Like you said,
Yeah.
even the small roles he stands out in. All right. So is it your turn or my turn? I can't remember.
Your turn.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
So can we bring up the wedding singer? So he's got a
Yeah.
very small part. Actually, he's been in a couple of Adam Sandler films. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So he was in Big Daddy, apparently, as a
Yeah.
homeless person.
Sometimes it literally is him walking on, and he'll say something funny, and that's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that, and the wedding singer. And the wedding singer is also like a very brief cameo type role where he's like basically the brother, the best groom, is it the best groom of one of the brothers who's getting married, and he's
Yeah.
totally drunk, but he's just so hilarious. And it's just like,
Yeah.
there's
And
one
I think
scene.
he pops up back at the end as well, doesn't he? So he does
Yeah, he's
get
like
a
at the
couple of
end, he's
scenes.
basically got his own wedding band going on, and he's singing True, and it's so corny because they're all dressed up 80s style. But he's like, yeah, he's basically the what do you call it? Like, because there's two brothers, isn't it? It's very brief. Like Adam
Yeah.
Sandler's playing at a wedding, and and he comes up to give his best man speech or whatever, and he's completely
It's
drunk.
just going off the rails, and
Yeah, and
Sandler has to sort of
he's
come
like,
in and save the day.
yeah, and he was like, yeah, he's like, and he's going off on a tangent, and he's saying, his dad's like, oh, because Harold's was always the dependable one, and I was always the screwed up one. Like, and he goes, Harold would never beat up his brother, his landlord.
Yeah.
He's just so funny in that film. It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, he's only in that for like literally blink, and then he's kind of gone, and then he comes back again at the end. But there is a funny bit where one of his band members, it's what's his name? He passed away really young. He's one of the Arquettes.
Yeah.
Um, he sings one of the
Alexis Arquette, yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
he was he transgender? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think
One of
so,
them
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, he passed away really young. But he basically sings the only song he can sing is "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" And that's the only song he can sing while Adam Sandler's having a break.
Yeah,
And
and he has to sort of loop it and do it again,
yeah,
doesn't
he
he?
do it again
Yeah.
because he doesn't come back. And there's a scene where Steve Buscemi's drinking. He goes, "Oh, I like her." But yeah, he's really stands out funny in that film, and it's literally like another one of those blink and you'll miss it films. But I don't know. Is there anything you want to say about him in that film? Have you seen The Wedding Singer?
I have, yeah, many times. I love that
Yeah,
film. So
it's so
it's just,
funny.
I think it's one of Adam Sandler's best, and the
Yeah, that was kind of
soundtrack's
his sort of
amazing as well.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that really stands out is a few of the cameos in it. Particularly Buscemi, and then John Lovitz has a good cameo as well
Oh
as a
yeah.
potential rival.
He's that really mean sort of wedding singer.
Yeah,
Isn't he? He's like, he goes, "Thanks to you, bailing out because your ex dumped you on the altar." He's like, because my revenues have tripled.
yeah,
And he sings, "Is it ladies' night?" But he's really dirty the way he goes, "Romantic lady, all sophisticated." He's really funny in that film. Yeah, it is a really good film. And Billy Idol rocks up.
yeah. Billy Idol as well. Yeah,
He's really funny in that film. He's really good in that film actually. Because he kind of plays um like upon himself, doesn't he? He kind of takes the mick
yeah,
out of his own um portrayal of him. He's a bit like Matt LeBlanc in episodes.
yeah. I think so.
A
And also,
heightened version.
he's so non-punky in it as well,
Yeah.
compared to like his old sort of early image.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite funny that.
Yeah, there's one bit where Adam Sandler goes, he goes, "See, if Billy Idol gets it, I don't know why the other guy can't get." But yeah, so that's another one of my favorite Buscemi films. So, is
Yeah.
there anything else you want to say about that? Well, I mean, it's very like brief, isn't it? So I don't know if there's anything you want to say about what you
Uh,
feel about him in that film.
no, but brief, but as usual, it's always one that you remember.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
likable,
so yeah,
and
likable as
probably
well.
one of the only ones where he doesn't die. And Big
Yeah,
Daddy too. Apparently, I don't think, from what I remember, he dies in that because he's very brief as a homeless man.
I don't think he does. So yeah, I think he survives that one as well. Just about.
He must have like a show reel of so many deaths. It must be on YouTube. Like on YouTube, there's a video of all of Sean Bean's deaths because Sean Bean's always dying as well.
Yeah, I've had to watch that one in shifts. It's so long.
Oh really?
Sean Bean. It
We'll
must
try
be a
to see.
5-hour video. That so.
Oh really? We'll try to see if we can find one of Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
We're going to be doing that the whole way, aren't we? Buscemi.
Buscemi. Yeah.
All right, so let's go into one of your Buscemi Steve films.
Okay, so I'm gonna do quite a big one here. Reservoir Dogs.
Ah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
So
That's such a good
yeah,
film. Why
I
Reservoir
love this
Dogs?
film. Yeah, so this is probably my favorite Tarantino film.
Mm.
I think it's one of his most kind of simple in many ways because it's the timeline shifts a little bit, but it's quite focused on a sort of core group of characters.
It's a heist
And
film, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, it doesn't play in chronological order, and it's a little bit kind of
It's quite confusing,
uh,
isn't it? I think as a first-time viewer.
it can be, yeah, not quite as much as some of his others, maybe, but also
Yeah.
it's quite a brief film as well by his standards. So it's like an hour 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight film. Part of the reason I think it's good. It's quite economical.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, basically, yeah, Buscemi plays one of a band of criminals.
mhm.
They all know each other as colours. just to
So
keep
why didn't you tell
kind of.
us all their colours quickly? Who's?
I can remember Buscemi. He's Mr. Pink, and he
Yeah.
doesn't like that.
No, he
He's
doesn't like it at all.
No, what am I, Mr. Pussy?
Yeah, he goes, I want to be Mr. Black or Mr.
Yeah.
Let's swap.
Yeah, but then the boss man won't let them change or swap colours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you got Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen.
The crazy
He's a maniac in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. White.
Who's Mr. White? Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. Orange, which is Tim Roth.
I think Mr. Orange was probably one of the most complex ones, wasn't he? Because he talked about it. Tim Roth talked about it because he's English, isn't he? He's an English actor. He's a really good actor, actually. My friend knows him a little bit, but so he basically found it interesting because he's an English guy playing an American guy, playing a cop, playing a burglar. So he's kind of like doing these. What do you call it? It's all these kind of different things. He's playing this person, playing this person, playing this person.
It's just lots of different layers.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor. He's another really underrated actor.
Yeah, he's a good character actor too. Like he's one of those ones, like Buscemi, where I don't think he'll ever play a lead role, will he? And if he does, it's going to be.
Yeah, they're kind of often in small indie films, but I mean, he's always great in them. I think TV is another avenue where they get to kind of shine a bit. So Tim Roth had a show called Lie to Me, and then Buscemi was in, is it Boardwalk Empire?
Yeah, I never saw that program, but I heard he was really good in it.
Yeah, so I mean, he gets a major role in that, and that's kind of like Scorsese produced. So that was a really highly rated show.
Yeah. Well, who tell us who briefly were the other ones, and then we'll go on about Steve Buscemi. And
so you had Mr. Brown, which was played by a guy called Eddie Bunker. Yeah, and he was he's quite well known in Hollywood because he's written a few films.
Okay.
And he's often he's like a specialist on the crew because he used to be a convict. So he actually served time with Danny Trejo at one point. So they normally get brought on, or Eddie used to get brought on as like a specialist to make sure that they get everything,
Oh, I see. Because they do that in films. Yeah. They give advice, don't they? They're basically how. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was actually him who basically got Trejo his start in movies because he was appearing in a film called Runaway Train, Eddie Bunker. He was on screen as a con, but he was also behind the scenes making sure that they get the prison thing accurate.
Yeah.
And they needed someone else to appear. And he said, I know this guy who looks really great, got prison tats all over him.
Yeah.
He could be in the film. So that's basically how Danny Trejo got his start in movies.
Okay.
Yeah. But Reservoir Dogs. So it's a heist gone wrong. And then they all converge back to this meeting point.
Yeah. And we didn't mention who Quentin Tarantino is in that film. I mean, he's very bad.
He was Mr. Blue.
Oh, that's it. Is it Blue?
Yeah. I think it's Mr. Mr. Blue.
Yeah.
I think.
It's not his best performance, is it?
No, but he starts the film, doesn't he? So it opens on him telling a story about the true meaning of Madonna's "Like a Virgin." Which we won't go into.
No, don't.
His theory,
it's a family quote type show.
Yeah. So we won't.
Or an 18 heist film.
Yeah. So and then so you've got the main sort of start comes from them converging at this meeting point where you've got Tim Roth is sort of gravely injured. So as they've escaped, he's been shot by someone.
Yeah, a civilian.
And so basically they're trying to make sense of what happened because Mr. Blonde basically went mad, started shooting. Everyone. And then there's also a suggestion that the cops were there, very too quickly. So they start thinking there's
a mole.
There's basically a mole.
Yeah.
Which there is, obviously.
Which is the
Yeah. So it's just it's really well written. It's a really great debut. from Tarantino.
He was really young when he directed that film as well. He must have been in his 20s as well. Which you think
He
about
was, yeah, like
your first film, is it?
26.
Yeah, and you think about
Yeah.
like, you know, what you were like, and when I was like at 25, 26. There's no way I would have been able to do a film like that, especially a feature
No,
film,
definitely not. No,
or have that
because
much
yeah,
control. Or
he'd almost walked out of a video shop straight onto a film set, basically. So
yeah, because he worked in a video
yeah,
shop, didn't he? He had no film. He didn't go to
yeah,
film school. That basically was his film school.
yeah.
So
So I think he'd made a few connections. So this was an interesting piece of trivia. So there was a exercise video a few years before Reservoir Dogs. This was with Dolph Lundgren.
uh-huh.
So Ivan Drago uh, from the Rocky films, he puts out his own exercise video, and Quentin Tarantino and another guy, Roger Avery, who's basically he's become a director himself. Those two are like great mates.
Yeah.
They started off as production assistants on this exercise video, having to pick up dog poo off the grass so that, you know, Dolph could go do his exercise routines on this patch of grass. Yeah,
Oh,
so there's one of the producers on that kind of he helped. He really liked Tarantino, so he sort of helped facilitate, you know, him getting script to screen on Reservoir Dogs.
okay.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, everyone starts somewhere. So you could be picking up
yeah.
dog poo for a big star and end up a few years later, you know, having your breakout indie hit.
Well, like Brad Pitt and a lot of the you know, the famous ones now, they all started off as supporting artists. And Harrison Ford was like at one point he was carpenter, wasn't he? Or he stopped at one point and went off to be a carpenter. So yeah, you
Yeah,
want
I
to
think
start
yeah he
off
did a lot
somewhere.
of different things, didn't he? Yeah, and Harrison Ford's first few roles were kind of like brief walk-ons,
Yeah, he
but
was
he
another
always sort of
supporting
stood
actor.
out. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
so yeah. So we're kind of going off tangent a bit. So let's talk about Mr. Pink because it is a Buscemi theme.
yeah.
So what do
So
you
yeah,
think of Mr. Pink and and Steve Buscemi's portrayal of him? Did you think he
yeah.
was an
He's
interesting
kind of like
character?
he is. Yeah, I think he's the most kind of grounded character. So everyone kind of works on these systems, and it's very old school gangster.
Mm.
But he's quite blunt and real about everything.
He's very
And
professional as well, I think, isn't he?
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Compared to the other ones where I think Mr. Blonde, for instance, he
he's
just
obviously
enjoys
yeah, yeah,
torturing people and he
yeah,
doesn't think about, you know, the actual job itself. Do you know what I mean? He's just too busy enjoying
yeah,
the gruesome side of it. And then you
yeah,
got the who's the old one you said?
yeah. Harvey Keitel, so
No,
Mr.
not him.
White.
The other one. He gets shot at the beginning. Um, not the guy who's in charge of the whole thing. There's another one I can't remember. Eddie Bunker's the dad, isn't he? Is he?
So Eddie Bunker is like one of the other Reservoir Dogs. He's Mr.
Oh, okay.
Brown. But
So
the dad is this big guy, Lawrence Tierney, with the like really
oh yeah. He was a
the
very
voice that
famous
sounds a
young
bit like
actor in
mine at the
Hollywood.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was a very famous. He was very good looking back in the day as well. Like I've seen videos of him in old gangster films, and he's really like
yeah.
um.
So yeah,
So
in his later life, he just got kind of typecast as
this
kind of
rough
gravelly
guy.
old, yeah, gruff gangsters. So he's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
playing that kind of role in this.
But yeah, they're all kind of so you got him, and then you got the because I'm going on to Steve Buscemi, don't worry. And then you got the Tim Roth who's kind of distracted with being the actual because really his motive is he's the cop trying to basically bust them really. So
Yeah,
he's sidetracked with doing that. Mr. Blonde is sidetracked with just being a crazy bastard going around and enjoying torturing people and cutting off their ears.
yeah,
Harvey, I
because they've
think Harvey,
kidnapped one cop, haven't they? So he
yeah.
particularly revels in it.
That was a horrible scene.
Yeah,
Then you got the Harvey Cartel, who's Mr. White, isn't he? And Mr. White is actually I find even though Mr. White, even though he's trying to be a hard ass, he's actually quite an emotional person, isn't he? At one point,
yeah. So
especially when
he's
he's
sort
like
of, you know,
vouching
he
for him
sort of
off.
gives away a bit too much about himself
Yeah,
because he starts getting quite close to Mr. Orange,
Pink.
Tim Roth's character.
Yeah. And then that's when they let out, like, why
Yeah.
did you tell them your real name and where you're from and blah, 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 blah. Because that's when they
Yeah.
let on that actually they think he might have been an undercover cop. So all of them are kind of very, sorry, because I went off track. All of them are kind of sidetracked with their own thing. And I think Mr. Pink, Buscemi, is the only one that's actually keeping on top of everything. He's just he's just completely focused on in and out. Do you know what I mean? He's like, I'm being a goddamn professional, and he goes, and you're all kind of going off, basically. So he comes across as being the only kind of quote professional one in the actual thing, where he just can't. He's just focused on getting the diamonds and getting in and out, and that's it. I think
because he's got no pre-established relationship either. So
no,
Mr. Blonde knows the two. He knows the big boss and his son.
That's it.
Mr.
Penn.
White, Harvey Keitel also
Penn,
knows
sorry.
them. Yeah, Chris Penn.
Yeah, sorry.
So there's this core group. They all kind of know each other and have a lot of bias, which affects how they think. So the two kind of new ones, Buscemi is quite, he's very level. So he's thinking about things a lot more logically, and he's not driven by what he knows about people already.
Yeah. And he's playing it safe. And also Mr. Orange is kind of doing that as well, playing it safe as well, isn't he? He's keeping his eye out and
a little bit, but obviously he's sort of a bit more preoccupied with his bullet wound, isn't he? So all of a sudden now he's worried about basically surviving.
Mr. Orange survives a hell of a long time with the amount of blood that he loses throughout that film.
He does,
he's complaining. I mean, obviously not complaining, but that he's dying, and he is really badly. But he still gets to go on throughout the whole film until the end, until he tells Mr. White who his true nature is. But Mr. Pink, I think. Which brings me up onto a good question. And we brought this up in one of the other ones, in the other podcast episodes we did. Do you think he actually survives at the end, or he doesn't? Because you just see him get out after the Mexican standoff when they all die and shoot each other. And you see him run off with the diamonds, and then all you hear is freeze and a gunshot. So do you think he survives or gets away? Do you think he survives or gets shot?
Do you know what? I like to think he does survive. I mean, he probably doesn't.
Yeah, I always assumed that he got away for some reason.
Maybe I'd like to think maybe he outran the bullets and jumped over a fence or something, got away.
But that's up to the audience, isn't it? That's like an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Like you see questions on the internet, like does he survive or does he not survive? It's basically up to you to. I think Tarantino basically suggests that he gets killed by them. But
I mean, I think so.
You don't see
but
it.
I think he does leave it open at least, so he's not really kind of black and white about it. So I'm going to say he gets off and rides off into the sunset
with the diamond.
He probably ends up in in a Vegas casino gambling with the character from Conair.
Got it. Yeah. Do you and another quick point I want to bring up about Reservoir Dogs before we move on to one of his other Steve Buscemi films. In the Mexican standoff, that's like a notorious one for film nerds, isn't it, to talk about? Because how many bullets go off? You know what I'm getting at, don't you? Because there's so who's pointing the gun at who? So you got Mr. So there's hang on.
So there's
who is it between a standoff? There's several of them.
You've got
Mr. Orange is on the floor. He's
Chris
dying.
Penn and his dad in it. You got Mr.
White.
Mr. Blonde is already dead, isn't he? So
is he? Yeah.
By that point, so this is why the standoff starts because Mr. Blonde has been killed. So.
And this is the bit where the dad and him
they know that
Tim Hoff is the police.
They know he's a cop. They're threatening him. Harvey Keitel is defending him.
So who's pointing the gun at who? So the dad's pointing the gun
at
the
Chris
cop.
Roth. Yeah, Chris Roth.
Chris what?
I think
Tim Roth.
Buscemi's in the background, so he's not got his gun. So he's sort of
Right.
sensibly staying away from it.
So
Chris Penn is pointing the gun at Mr. White.
Okay. And
Yeah, so
Mr.
he's
White.
like,
Oh,
"Stop
Mr.
pointing
White's
that gun at
pointing
my
the
dad."
gun at the
Yeah,
dad.
he's like, "Stop pointing that gun at my dad."
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
okay. So let's get this straight. So
There's just three gunmen.
right. So the dad's
Yeah.
pointing his gun at Tim Roth.
Yeah,
Tim Roth is not doing anything because he's dying.
he's half dead. Yeah.
He's
Mr.
Mr.
Harvey
White's
Keitel is pointing it at the big boss.
Yeah.
Big Eddie, I think it's called.
And the son's pointing it at Mr.
Harvey
White because he's
Keitel,
saying,
yeah.
"Don't stop pointing the gun at my dad." Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're basically, and how many bullets go off? Because
I can't remember how many bullets go off in the end, but
because
yeah,
I tried seeing it in slow
gun.
motion, and and everyone talks about this. There's like, and even what's his face, Tarantino brings it up. It was like, there's a bullet missing, or there's too many bullets going off at the same time. So there should be. It's kind of like a mathematical equation, isn't it?
Maybe Steve gets a sly shot from the background.
Could be.
Without unseen. Maybe he gets a sly shot off and yeah, I don't know. Or maybe someone might fire twice, maybe.
Yeah. So hang on. Right, so hang on. I'm gonna get
I'll have to watch it again now.
I know we need to watch it to kind of establish. So hang on, let me get this straight. So one bullet would be pointing from the dad to Mr. White. So another bullet will be pointing from his son to Mr. White. So that's 1, 2, and Mr. White is shooting 2 bullets back, wouldn't he? No.
So he's just they've all got one gun, I think. I can't remember now. So 3 guns.
Yeah.
So yeah. If they're firing once, we'll assume it's 3 bullets, but
okay,
we'll have to look. So if there's any more,
we'll look that back because otherwise we'll spend the whole rest of the episode trying to figure out how many bullets go off and who kills who.
I'm sure someone has figured this already.
Yeah. All right, so let's crack on. So, Reservoir Dogs. So let's go on to Steve Buscemi. Is there anything else you want to say about his role as Mr. Pink? Did you like Mr. Pink?
I did, yeah. He's again, Buscemi makes a character very likable, and because he's almost the most rational one, he's almost like the audience in a way. He's quite kind of level-headed, so he's looking at everything objectively, really.
Yeah.
So but he's a really good character in that, and I think it's Tarantino's best film still.
Yeah, and there was one point where he starts shouting at Harvey Keitel and say, "Don't tell me your name," because he's literally about Harvey Keitel. Mr. White's literally about to say, that he told Tim Roth his name, and he goes, "I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear." It's like he's in that way, like you said, he's keeping things very rational and professional. Like there are rules, and you have to make sure you don't go off them or you don't disobey them, because then there'll be consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, anything else you want to bring up about Mr. Pink and Steve Buscemi?
No, we could do. Should we do another one? Have you got any more suggestions?
I can't think of any. I need to watch more Buscemi films. I mean, I think, like you said, Reservoir Dogs is probably his standout role. Was that the one that kind of launched his career, do you think, into the main?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, he'd done a few indie films,
Coen Brothers and stuff.
Yeah, by that point, he'd done a couple of Coen Brothers. He'd done one Coen Brother walk-on, which was Miller's Crossing. So he'd been well known as sort of popping up in small character roles by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first kind of significant role where he really kind of broke out, I think, like a lot of the other actors in the film.
I'm just looking at his IMDb to see if there's any film. Oh, I can quickly pick up an interesting fact that we haven't spoken about because we're talking about Tarantino. Did you know? Here's a bit of trivia for you, that he plays very, very, very briefly a cameo part in Pulp Fiction. And do you know who it is?
I did, yeah. as the waiter
as
in
the
the
waiter.
50 diner. Yeah,
And you don't recognise him, do you? Because you would think, oh, he's got a wig on and glasses. So yeah,
yeah.
he's the waiter who basically takes their
Gives them the
order.
$5 shake.
That's it. Yeah.
$5 for a shake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then she goes into a
And
speech about the comfortable or uncomfortable silence.
yeah. And that's kind of like before one of the most iconic scenes, isn't it, with the dancing?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
famous scene. He's really good, Tarantino, for picking out the right songs for the right
Oh
moments,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
for sure.
Because I think he's only done 1 or 2 films with an actual score. So everything he's done has been soundtrack. So it's always songs that he's used in his films.
Yeah,
If he ever has any sort of dramatic music or kind of score music, it's always been old pieces of score from other films.
yeah.
So it's like
But that would
cowboy
cost him a
music.
lot of money, didn't it? Because I
It
remember
would, yeah,
that I was saying to someone, I think it was OD, that in Reservoir Dogs, because Reservoir Dogs was such a low budget film and it was
yeah,
Tarantino's first film, so obviously it was a big what do you call it? A big risk in a way, isn't it? Because
yeah,
it was like a guerrilla style film, and um, I think Miramax, isn't it? They
yeah. They ended up picking it up, and I think a big
yeah,
part of
with
it
what's
was
his,
because Harvey Keitel put himself on board the film and
yeah,
gave his backing. So that's how they got additional funding. Because I think one of the biggest expenditures in it was
the soundtrack.
the particularly one song, which was I think the "Stuck in the Middle with
Yeah,
You"
that's what
with
I was
the
talking about
earphone.
with OD, because we
Yeah,
were saying because that song is apparently was the one that the most money went on. And you think about,
yeah,
they've got to think about the funding for the cast, so the cast need their pay or their cut of um the crew do, everyone does.
yeah,
But apparently the majority of the budget went on the score, and that was the only song that was the most expensive, and the original songwriter
yeah.
didn't actually want that song to be on the soundtrack, did he?
No, I don't think he did.
No.
Um, but obviously, it's weird because that song had almost, in a strange way, at that point, it had kind of been forgotten about. So you wouldn't have necessarily thought it at the time.
No.
You know, obviously Beatles and things like that, you always assume they're going to cost masses of money.
Yeah.
But this one, that film itself basically put that song back on the map
Well, I said it,
after.
it brought it
Yeah.
back in the limelight. I mean, I didn't know that song before.
No, I mean I discovered that basically because of Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, yeah. Which is another good thing that Tarantino's good at, for picking out songs and music and having a good eye.
Yeah,
Not a
it
good
was
eye,
like
a good ear
the
for music, and
yeah
when to
the
put them.
Japanese rock and roll band in was it the
Oh,
eight?
the 5, 6,
Oh,
7, 8s
yeah, the 5, 6, 7, 8s.
in
Yeah,
Kill Bill.
so he
Yeah,
kind
they're
of
really good.
launched them internationally
Yeah.
briefly. Yeah,
Yeah. No, he is very good in that. There was something I quickly want to talk about with Steve Buscemi. So um, we were talking about how at the beginning of the episode, that he used to work as a fireman, etc., etc. And then we brought up that he helped out and volunteered for the 9/11, and he spent hours and hours, helping out.
yeah,
So basically, him and a documentarian. Hang on, I'm going to put. I don't know if you know what I'm getting at, because my sisters were talking about it with me as well. So a lot of the people that helped with the digs and going through those awful the aftermath of it all, a lot of them got cancer from with all the plastic, the melted metals and all that kind of stuff, the fumes and everything.
yeah,
um and that's basically and nobody talks about that, the aftermath of 9/11. I mean, obviously there's the aftermath of how it affected the families of who lost their loved ones, etc. But then they never focused on the people that actually were on the site, who were basically the heroes. So there's a documentary that he made called I'm going to see if I can. I don't know if you know about this, Tom. Do you know about this?
It might ring a bell. I'll have to look that one up myself later, I think.
Yeah. But him and a woman, basically, they talk about how, the aftermath and how a lot of people who were working afterwards digging up, all the awful, stuff that was going on and looking for the dead bodies, etc., etc. A lot of them got cancer and had serious health issues afterwards because of the dust and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you think about all the fumes that were going on afterwards. But yeah, I can't remember what the film was. But yeah, he made a documentary debut with HBO about it. So, but that was something I was going to bring up about it. I need to watch it for sure and bring up. I don't know much about it, so
no, I think definitely. I think I'll have to give that a watch as well.
Yeah, is there any? Sorry,
I think it's interesting because he's been in that situation, so he knows it firsthand.
Yeah.
So he's coming from that kind of point of view where he knows what he's talking about before,
and
he starts the documentary.
Yeah, and like we said, he's still very much in touch with his old roots, because obviously I think he worked as a fireman for about 12 years before he made it as an actor. And that was basically his, that was what he was basically supporting himself with while he was trying to get into acting, etc. So he's always kind of gone back to the roots of, and helped out whenever he can. And he always goes up and talks about, the firehouses that are shutting down in New York, etc., because of the budgeting that goes on in New York City with the mayor and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he still seems to have a lot of contact with, his old buddies or, people that he worked with in the fire brigade services, which also kind of makes him a standout guy as well. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that or bring up about any of his other films quickly.
So I'll just briefly mention one other film. This was a bit of a cult sort of quirky black comedy.
Okay.
Do you remember a film called Ghost World?
Oh yeah, he was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah. So you've got.
Is he like a nerdy?
Yeah, he's kind of like this nerdy outsider
shop owner. Yeah.
A bit of a loner, and then these two girls kind of play a practical joke on him.
And one of them kind of has a crush on him, don't they? It's Scarlett Johansson and
Thora Birch.
Yeah. That was a
classic. One. Yeah, classic. Remember her, Thora Birch.
From American Beauty.
Yeah. But yeah, that was quite an enjoyable film. I've not seen it in a long time, but
yeah, I forgot he was in there.
Yeah, so he's playing like the kind of oddball in it that they kind of initially they make fun of, but then
they kind of
Thora Birch kind of gets close to him and sort of
there's a crush on
she
him.
starts drifting apart from Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just an interesting film, quite quirky, one of those classic kind of quirky comedies.
And it's another kind of indie film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that also says a lot about him, that actually he's quite eclectic, where he won't always go for the money. He'd rather go for the good work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think, rather than being in, the massive budget film for maybe, a couple of scenes, he'll do indie films to get, a bit more of a meaty role and a bit more, a bit more things to do, really.
Well, and also the writing's better, I think. And
often it is, particularly nowadays,
Yeah. In low budget films for sure, which is why I think a lot of them, like we spoke about this quite a lot, have gone on to doing TV stuff because
that's where the better writing is.
Yeah, because we spoke about this briefly as well. Like at one point, 80s before or maybe 90s before, TV. It's etc. Obviously, Netflix and all that kind of streaming stuff wasn't around then. That was the last resort. That basically meant that your movie career was going downhill. So that was not a good route to go down if you were a high profile actor.
Yeah, because everything was still a little bit soapy and a bit, if you look at Game of Thrones, for example, the comparison maybe 20 years before that would have been something like Xena, Warrior Princess
Mm,
as the equivalent. So, um, TV has come on massively since then.
yeah. Yeah, and we
Yeah,
also said that there's a big budget now, isn't it, for TV? I mean, a lot of them get paid
yeah,
a lot of money compared
I
to
think so. Yeah,
the
I
films.
think so. Yeah,
And I think it was one of us brought up very quickly. We'll do one of him as well maybe at some point. Kiefer Sutherland was the one that probably kicked it all off, wasn't he? Because he was a big
yeah,
movie star. And then he went on to doing 24, which at the time I think 24 was 2001, 2002, and
yeah.
the first season. And at the time, you think about it, that film was really not film. It was a big deal because you would never ever see a well-known movie actor do a TV show. And
No,
then
and I think
yeah,
aesthetically they shot it very much like a movie as well.
yeah, and he said that as well,
Yeah,
didn't he? Yeah, which
because the sort of the TV formula used to always be based off how they shot soaps and American soaps, which was very kind of very textbook way. So everything kind of looked the same. They just did it in as easy a way as possible to shoot it really quickly
yeah,
because you'd sometimes be shooting, you know, masses of pages of dialogue each day,
yeah,
very tight turnarounds. So I think they've just found ways to make things look more elaborate and more like a film now. So you
yeah.
can
And
have
I
TV
think he
shows that
said
look like
that, didn't
films.
he? That
Yeah,
that like shooting 24 is actually like making a movie because it takes up like a whole year of your life or something. Um,
yeah, and they shoot very quickly, but also they would. I think also as well as these bigger actors coming down,
mm,
you've had quite a few, more high profile directors making the move to TV as well.
yeah,
They might only do one episode of something and then hand over the reins, but they kind of set the blueprint
yeah.
that
You are
everyone else
beginning to see
follows.
a lot of famous actors go on to like Netflix shows. Where I mean,
Yeah,
there was Kevin Bacon. He did The Following. I don't know if you can think of any.
yeah.
Kate, what's her face? This is old woman thing kicking in. Ah, what was her name? She was in Titanic. Kate.
Oh, Kate Winslet. Yeah,
Ah, yeah, there you go. She just one.
yeah.
Um, Colin Farrell
I,
did one. I think
yeah, I think just about every
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
big star has done,
Billy Bob
a
Thornton.
TV gig. Yeah,
Yeah,
Billy Bob. There's quite a few at the moment that are doing things as well that have been transitioned from movies. Matthew McConaughey. So they
yeah,
had True Detective that had a really kind of big cast in it.
yeah. That
A
with
few
Colin Farrell
headliner.
as well. As I'm thinking of something, it was him and
Uh,
Woody. Woody. Yeah, I never saw that
yeah, Woody
program.
Harrelson. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
there was
haven't seen
another
that
one of
one yet,
Colin
but
Farrell as well. But yeah,
yeah,
and I did remember reading something saying that that's why a lot of them are going into TV shows or especially streaming shows like Netflix, Amazon, etc. Because that's where the writing is so much more better and like you said,
yeah. I think
easy.
so because they can still get good money
Yeah,
doing like a good level TV show, whereas in the movies you've got your 100 million plus budget movies, and then you've got really kind of low budget movies, but not much in between.
yeah,
So if you want to do something, a bit more interesting in terms of character, or maybe a bit more indie themed,
work.
then you've got to take a massive pay cut to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, which
Whereas TV, you can still get paid, $100,000 an episode
yeah.
and do, like 20 episodes. So,
And you
a
think
lot of
about it
these,
about sorry.
a lot of these actors, they do an indie film for kind of, the basic, for scale, basically, what they call scale.
Yeah,
So a very basic rate just to get, do something a bit different.
yeah. I think in a way it would kind of make sense because you'd always hear actors, for instance, when I went to drama school, etc. Um, you always hear them say their first love is stage, and they'd always go back to stage. But
Yeah.
you know what? Stage work is actually really bad pay for actors compared to film and TV work. It's not much for. I
No,
mean,
I think they end up doing it if they do for the art,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. Which is kind of
If they
like what
made,
the indie thing is like as well, in a way.
So what you'll do is you'll see someone do a big blockbuster. They'll go off, do some theatre, and then they'll come back and do another big pay job to sort of things back up again.
Yeah. And you think about it as well, because we're talking about it. There's been several cases where there have been some very big, high profile, like big budget films. And you think about it, the writing really wasn't that good at all. And that's where the
No.
actors come in. They have to make it good, considering that the writing is so crap. I mean, I can give a few. Yeah, there's quite a few examples. Like, for instance, I mean, Titanic was a good film, but you watch it now, you think about it, the writing isn't that good. Do you know what I mean?
It is quite melodramatic and a
It
little
is.
bit, I guess, soapy as well.
But they make it work because they're really good actors, and that's kind of their job, to make it work.
And a lot of it is about the spectacle as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You got that side of it.
So yeah. But we got a bit sidetracked, didn't we? We were just talking about Steve Buscemi and how. So is there anything else you want to say about any of his films? That we need to do some more Steve Buscemi research, I think.
No, just that every time he pops up in something, he's memorable.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's always for the better of the film that when he's in it, I think.
Yeah. Is he does he still live in New York, do you know? I mean, a lot of them are situated in both New York and I think a lot of them tend to prefer being away from LA now. They just tend to go there for the work if they need to. But
yeah,
I think
I would imagine he's still there.
Yeah.
I
think he would be, because obviously that's where his roots are from and stuff. So but yeah, no, I like Steve Buscemi. He just comes across as a really nice, down to earth, likable person. He just comes across as kind of someone you could have a chat with, and he wouldn't have any
he wouldn't shoo you away.
He wouldn't be a diva or any of that nasty behavior. He's like a nice guy of Hollywood, I think. A bit like Keanu, my husband.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We'll do a Keanu Reeves special, but that would probably go on for about 5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the first 3 hours would be you swooning over him.
Yeah. And your wife could come on.
No, I try and keep her away from Keanu. He's irresistible. She wants to watch the new Matrix, but I'm not sure I want to take her.
No, I don't know if I want to watch the new Matrix with him. It'd be weird now because he's coming up to his 60s. He's like in his late 50s. And I like the Matrix film, the original one. I didn't watch the sequels.
Well, I think you'd still marry him, though, wouldn't you?
I would still marry him, but he's got a girlfriend, but we can get rid of her. I'm only joking-ish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you fix me up with Salma Hayek, then I'll try and help you with Keanu Reeves.
Okay. Do you know what? I mean, we're getting kind of sidetracked again, but my old housemate, she saw him in Richmond, which is really close to me, and I was absolutely gutted. I was like, how can you not tell me? Why wasn't I not there? But he just walks around like an everyday person. And obviously he is, but that's what he's notorious for. He's such a nice guy that, he doesn't make a big deal of it. He doesn't have an entourage or anything. So kind of like Steve Buscemi, he kind of comes across the same. He doesn't come across as someone having a big ego or is arrogant.
Yeah, he does just normal things,
Yeah, he just walks around and does his job.
Yeah.
Go home to his family. But there was talking about him when I was when I brought up his name at the beginning. He said to this host that apparently once his wife called the hotel where he was staying at, and she asked to speak to Steve Buscemi. And they said they corrected her and said, no, it's Steve Buscemi. And she said, thank you. Now can I speak to my husband?
Yeah.
So even people are telling, his family and him how to say their name, how to say his name.
Well, I know this feeling myself because everyone gets my name wrong or they spell it wrong. Yeah, perennially. It's just constant. So after 40 years, I've just decided they can just call me what they like.
How do they call you then? I'll tell you how they call me.
So often it's the spelling that they get wrong. Sometimes they'll make it sound a bit more fancy than it is, like Jolliffe or Jolliffe.
Or like Jolie.
Yeah, or Jolie. Yeah,
Tom Jolie.
yeah.
So
So
how
yeah.
do you really say it?
Well, you got it right first time.
Okay.
So Tom Jolliffe.
But I'm dyslexic as well, so that's
Yeah.
probably a mistake, but a good mistake.
It just sounds as simple as it can.
Yeah.
So Jolliffe is unkind of, because people want to French it up a lot. They want to make it sound quite French. So yeah. But it's the spelling that people get wrong often. So they'll miss an L, because I got 2 L's, 2 F's, and 1 E. So sometimes there'll be 1 L, 1 F, or there'll be 2 E's, an extra E put in. So, yeah.
I've had people say to me, I get this a lot, chung.
Yeah.
When I was in primary school, chewing. Just really bad. But you know what? To be honest, really, it should be Chang. And I was talking about this. I can't remember. My mum will have to correct me at some point, because my dad is technically a Chang. But it was something to do with the fact that originally his family are from Shanghai, so it's Chang, and all the rest of his side of the family are Changs. We're the only Chungs, and that's to do with the translation from Mandarin to Cantonese, because they went over to Hong Kong. So he's the only Chung, whereas everyone else is a Chang.
I see. Yeah,
so technically
that's quite interesting.
Yeah. So, but it was nothing. It was something to do with the fact that the immigration or something messed up with the translation, but it should be Chang. And I have often thought about changing it, but it's just like now it's just like, the normal now, and it's my name, so I can't. But then there's so many Changs now in Hong Kong, and a few. You've got a few favorite ones. Like, who are they?
Oh yeah, Maggie.
You love Maggie.
So no, I'll have Maggie. You have Kiani. So
okay,
do that. And then Tony Lung has a similar problem that they call him Lung.
Oh yeah, is he from Hong Kong as
well? Yeah, he's Hong Kong, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because Maggie's. Is she Canadian? Chinese or English? Chinese, Hong Kong.
She was studying in England a while, but she was from Hong Kong or China, I think.
Yeah, I think she's kind of like Hong Kong, England, where some of them are like. There's quite a few of them who speak really good English.
Yeah, but I believe she studied in
England.
In England, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Either Oxford or London.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
And
so
Tony,
I missed the boat.
Yeah, and Tony Leung is Canadian. I think I don't know. His English is also very good. Tony Leung, I'm thinking about. But he's very handsome. Tony Leung. Is it Tony Leung?
Tony. Yeah, so he's got the EUNG. So
I'm looking him up. Yeah, no, he's really
instead of Leung, isn't it? But everyone calls him Leung.
Oh, is it? And it's Leung.
Yeah, he's just having his Hollywood debut right now with Shang-Chi.
Okay.
So it's his first Hollywood film. So every interview is calling him Tony Leung.
Oh no! Yeah, he's. I just read about him. He's. It says British Hong Kong, so I don't think.
Yeah, so I think that means just basically he was born when Britain owned.
Oh, okay.
Hong Kong.
Yeah, like my dad.
Yeah.
No, hang on. Yeah, it would have been like my dad as well. Yeah.
I mean, his English is very good. But
he is really good,
people didn't even realise that until he did this first Hollywood film.
No.
Because since before then, he was just always Cantonese or Mandarin.
Yeah, no, he did that film. I mean, we're kind of going off because it is a Buscemi film, but this is a film.
Sorry, Steve.
No, it's all right. We still love Steve. It's a Steve Buscemi film, but this is still a film podcast show, so we can quickly. He what did you just say? I forgot what I was saying about him, Tony Leung.
About his Hollywood date or his good English?
Yeah. So he was in that. Do you remember? I never saw it. That very risky film that got banned in China. You saw it.
Ang Lee film.
Yeah, the Lust
Caution. Yeah,
and that was very steamy, apparently.
It was, yeah.
My sister saw that because I've never seen it, and I said, "Should I watch that film?" She went, "Whoo, don't watch it with your parents."
Yeah. Well, can I just make a point here? I didn't recommend it to you, so just be thankful for that. Because the last film
like
I
The
did
Handmaiden.
Yeah, I'll never live that down. The Handmaiden.
But yeah, he because we were talking about his English. He when he was doing the press for that, he did quite a lot of English press for that as well, and a lot of those actors spoke English because a few of them were brought up in Vancouver. There's a lot of famous, like a lot of Chinese people went to Vancouver. There's a big Chinese community in Vancouver for sure. Especially when I went to school in Hong Kong, there was like the majority of the kids were from. You say, "Where are you from, Canada?" And I'll go, "I bet you're from Vancouver, aren't you?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So his English is very good, and there's quite a few other ones. I know very briefly that the woman who played the spy in that film was her debut.
That wrecked her career for a while.
Oh, did it really?
There was so much controversy around it, and obviously,
yeah, it got banned in China, didn't it?
Yeah, for a guy, it doesn't matter so much, but obviously, if you're a female actress in that kind of film, it can really kind of tarnish you.
And it was her debut as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess that part of the world, particularly at the time, very kind of conservative. So she basically got blacklisted. Yeah,
their censorship is ridiculous. So
it took her about a decade to sort of recover, and she's never really kind of been up to that same level since.
No,
which is a shame,
really. Gamble as well, isn't it? Especially for her, for her first time role as well. That's a big risk to take.
Because I know Ang Lee was a fairly big name, but he wasn't. It wasn't until a few years after that he did Crouching Tiger, and then basically the whole world knew him. So it was a big gamble.
Yeah, he was always a very well-known director, though, wasn't he? In Taiwan, he's My dad likes him. I remember my dad and my sisters talking about when he did The Life of Pi, and then when he won the Oscar, he came. I mean, this is how down to earth he is. As soon as he won the Oscar, he went to McDonald's and there's a picture of him with a cheeseburger or something. And and he directed Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah,
which is a really weird film. You think about it for
he's done a very weird kind of mix of films.
Eclectic, and then he did, obviously, what was one of Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal?
Brokeback Mountain,
yeah.
He's kind of courted controversy a lot, hasn't he? From back home.
Yeah, he was actually.
So I wonder if that's why he still does the odd production though that has Chinese backing, so it hasn't affected him, hugely. But he's often courted some controversy. Yeah. But particularly back home.
Yeah, because he originated as a Taiwanese theatre director, didn't he? And then he went on to doing, I guess, TV and film. But anyway, so we got sidetracked. So is there anything else you want to say? This is what happened.
So no, I think that's been good. The Steve Buscemi and Ang Lee show.
Yeah, we did really well. We got a bit sidetracked at times, but
as always.
But it is a film podcast, so I guess people will let us off because we're still talking about film. So, and when it gets to Chinese New Year, Tom, we'll do a Chinese New Year film special where we can talk about Hong Kong
definitely,
Chinese films.
Excellent.
That'd be good. So why didn't you tell people, because your wife's Chinese and your daughter's half Chinese like me? Why didn't you tell people how you say Happy New Year in Chinese? We'll finish off there. Unless there's anything else you want to say about
what is it? 新年快乐.
Is it? I thought it was 恭喜发财.
There's two ways to say it. 恭喜发财. 新年快乐.
新年快乐. Yeah. We'll do a special about it, and we can.
And there's another one that my wife taught me, which is Hong Bao Nia Le, which
I don't
means
know that one.
Give me money.
Oh yeah. We can talk about that on Chinese New Year.
Yeah, she made me say that to her in-laws.
You know why? I'll quickly tell the listeners to explain because they might not understand. So basically, Chinese New Year, all the young people, if you're not married, all the single people and the young people, they get excited because they get red packets of money, and it's like lucky money, basically. So if you're married, it's custom to basically to always give people who are not married, etc., or kids, etc., lucky money, which is lai si money. And then often you tend to find that people go gambling on Chinese New Year. So they go to the race courses and they always bet on number 8 because number 8's a lucky number. Like my aunt, whenever she watches the horses, she goes, number 8, go for number 8. So that's what it's about. But is there anything else we should say about Buscemi before we go?
No, all I'll say is that he deserves an Oscar, and hopefully one day he'll get one.
He does.
Yeah.
No, he's a really good actor. He like you said, he's one of those actors where you think, actually a lot of the films he's been in, be it big, small, ensemble, etc., they're always going to be guaranteed to be really good films.
Yeah, often, yeah.
Yeah, which is
maybe not Grown Ups with Adam Sandler, but everything else.
No. I haven't seen. I'll have to watch that one. He's done quite a few of Adam Sandler, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he does it for a free holiday.
Yeah, you can tell he has a good laugh at doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And it's one of the only people he works with where he doesn't have to die in the film. We'll do a show count of how many films he dies in.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. We can open up the next show with that.
Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll do one with Sean Bean as well, which will probably take us about 5 hours to go through every film he's died in.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, so there's nothing else you want to say about him before we go? No? All good?
No, I think we've covered everything with Steve.
Okay. All right, so we'll sign off there. All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on.
That's all right. We'll do another one at some point. And since you're the work experience boy, do you want to sign off?
Yeah, just thank you for listening, and I hope we've opened people's minds up to the strengths of Mr. Steve Buscemi. Whichever way anyone wants to say it, you're allowed to, because Steve has said that himself.
Yeah. He doesn't mind. Either way, he's fine. It's a bit like me being Chung, Dong, Chang, you being Jolliffe.
Yeah.
Everything else under the sun. Let it go.
Yeah.
All right then. Thank you, lovely. We'll talk again soon, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.